Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing very well today and you're ready to start your day with Shazad Khan and Maha Mukhtoom on this beautiful day. Assalamu alaikum Shazad, how are you?
Walaikum assalam.
You know-
I'm absolutely perfect.
Good.
And what about you? Because yesterday you were like that, you're not feeling very well, but you still made it to the show.
Yep.
So how do you feel?
I felt really sick yesterday and then I'm feeling a bit sick today, but I've started my medicine and stuff. So I've been eating lots of fruit, I've been really healthy, I've been going to bed really early. So I feel definitely a lot better today. But I was actually going to say in the introduction, hope you're ready to start your day with me, Shazad Khan. You, Maha Mukhtoom.
Yeah, obviously, when when it's the 11th hour, you try to change things. I think that's how you feel. But,
Absolutely.
just because of the fact that you've got your hands-on experience so well now that, it is very easy for you. But for all those people who are out there, it's time to rise and shine, wake and bake, get up, be more focused. It's Thursday today,
Yeah,
I
and I
think,
feel
if
like
I'm not wrong.
I feel like I haven't asked you. So when you wake up, do you start baking?
Well,
Like you bake cakes and stuff?
Well, it's not like that, but if I'm supposed to, I think I will. Or probably if I owned a bakery, I think that was the first thing I was doing when I get up.
Okay.
But, people, please make sure that you surround yourself with positive energy and positive people
Yes.
because we too, obviously, are very positively inclined people as
Yeah.
well. So, it's better to stay tuned in.
Actually, no, I become more positive when we start doing the show because actually Shazad is the more positive one out of us two. I'm the more kind of cynical, a bit more kind of realistic. But anyway, I'm kidding, joking.
Yeah, I
But,
know that you're closer to reality, though. Very close to the reality.
But anyway, we have a really wonderful show for you, but let's start with our top stories for the hour.
All right, let's take a look. Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif will inaugurate first 660 megawatt unit of Sahiwal coal power project today. The project comprises two 660 megawatt plants with total capacity of 1320 megawatts and is one of early harvest projects of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Wow.
Wonderful. Okay, moving on. Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif says that the socio-economic uplift of the masses is a priority of the government and the budget strategy is an important tool for achieving these objectives.
Moving on, government is set to launch economic survey of Pakistan for outgoing fiscal year 2016 to 17 and annual plan for year 2017 and 18 today.
And then in other headlines in the newspapers, Finance Minister Sardar will present federal budget for the fiscal year of 2017 and 18 in the National Assembly tomorrow.
And moving on, ladies and gentlemen, last but not the least, President Mamnoon Hussain says Pakistan has achieved significant successes in the war against terrorism. True that.
And then, actually, I have one more. And Pakistan Railways, this is the final one, has announced a decrease in their fares for all classes of trains up to 20% for Ramadan al-Mubarak.
Wow, that's great, I think.
So that is wonderful. Oops.
So I think it stays the same when, we are just around the corner for Eid as well, because that's when every other organization think about increasing the fares as well. For example, our airplanes, that's why.
So tell me one thing. I mean, I've noticed this trend in the last 3.5 years. I've been here for almost 4 years, by the way. But I've noticed this, like abroad, when there's like, religious holidays or festivals, they decrease the money so that everyone can afford to buy stuff. What I've noticed is that all the shops and the brands and everything increases so much. And you don't want to buy anything.
That's what it is because, around Eid, what happens is that the demand is too much for everything, because what happens over here in Pakistan, we do love to procrastinate. So what happens is that, okay, your wife or your kids or your mother has probably been saying that, let's go shopping, let's get the stuff because, everybody else is going to get it first and we might not even be left with a choice. So everybody's rushing to, to the shops and to everywhere else in the last 10 days. And what happens is that, since the people know that people are going to come and ask for things and they might be short of things as well, so they ask the price they want. So it's just a normal demand supply thing. But I think this initiative by the Pakistan Railway is a great initiative.
Absolutely.
And we should support that as well. So for all those people who intend to travel in Ramadan, I think it's
Exactly.
going to be great.
And these are the times when people want to visit their families, so it should be affordable for the masses. So that's wonderful initiative as well. But now we have to move on to our public service message. So let's take a look at that.
Yeah, go ahead. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so the public service message today is a well sought one because of the fact that majority of the times what happens whenever we are going to go buy grocery, for example, if we are going to do all of the house
Grocery
chores or
shopping.
grocery shopping, I think if that's what we are doing, or we are at a restaurant or we somewhere else, what happens is that if if there's takeaway, we do not have a concept of a doggy bag over here.
Okay.
That's what you call a doggy bag. But over here, what happens is that we use quite a lot of plastic bags, which are non-biodegradable as well. And that can cause quite a lot of problem for the animals and the birds out there as well. And then, it can cause quite a lot of clottage, for example, within the drain systems because we throw them. And then other than that, it's just not very healthy for all those people around us as well. Because one way or the other, it's not going to go anywhere till I don't know when.
Exactly. It's not biodegradable. It looks ugly. And, everyone who is aware of, who cares a lot about the environment, they're using those natural bags or the cloth bags, and they're reusable, and you're saving money as well.
And I gave you one as well.
Yeah, you did. And I use it every day, and it's so
Exactly.
useful. So that is our public service message. But now we're going to talk about our topic of the day.
Exactly.
And it's a very important topic because, as you know, since we started the show, it's all about destigmatizing topics. And one of them is mental health.
Exactly.
Okay,
so when we talk about mental health, ladies and gentlemen, within kids, there are different problems. Parents might feel it at times, but they do not go to a doctor to consult because of the fact that they are unaware of what's going on. So today what we have picked up on is learning disabilities. Now, for instance, you have to pause over here. So learning disability is obviously different from learning
difficulties.
Learning difficulty. Now, learning disability is said to be a neurological disorder.
Yeah.
And what happens is that, for example, for all of those normal things which kids do, for example, probably pick up the newspaper, read it, or, identify colors or numbers, it gets difficult for them to gain that knowledge and then perform them with all of those skills which other kids can of the same age. So, for example, if your kid cannot do that, that means that there is a learning disability going on.
Exactly, but the thing is that doesn't mean that it's all and you need to get all like upset and embarrassed and hide it. It's not a illness. It's nothing like that. There are lots of tools that can be utilized to make sure that these children excel in life, and actually more often than not, these children are brighter than your average child.
Exactly.
So it's about giving them the resources and the tools in order to further themselves in life. So we will be discussing all that. We've got wonderful guests in the studio.
And wherever we talk about these resources, so what we try to say over here, what we try to recommend is that for all those parents who get their hands on this on this piece of information that their kid is going through this phase of life or probably this problem, and then they start focusing at early age, the results are very better when they grow up, obviously. So this is what we're going to discuss, but right now, ladies and gentlemen, we need to go for a short break, and when you guys are going to come back, we'll obviously introduce the amazing guests who are sitting over here. So let's go for a short break. Good morning. All right, people, thank you very much for staying tuned, and for all those people who just got tuned into PT while you watch your world this morning alongside Maha Makhdoom and Shazad Khan. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we have picked up a topic with the name Learning Disabilities, and let's introduce the guest now.
Absolutely. So we've been very lucky. We've been joined by Dr. Uzma Masroor. She's heading the Department of Professional Psychology at Barry University. She's also a consultant clinical psychologist at the Institute of Medical Rehabilitation. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Besides Dr. Uzma Masroor, we've been joined by Ms. Tahira Javed. She is a consultant clinical psychologist. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. Thank you so
Thank you
much
very
for
much for
joining us.
coming over, and to get the conversation started, Maha, would you mind then?
No, I don't mind at
All
all.
right, so let's start with Dr. Uzma.
Yes.
So Dr. Uzma, today we've picked up on learning disabilities, but then there's quite a lot of confusion because people mix it with learning difficulties as well. So how do we differentiate both of them? What is learning difficulty and what is learning disability?
Thank you.
problem.
Basically, there are much more about that, learning difficulties, learning disability, and then there is another thing that is called slow learning.
Yeah.
So these are all concept overlapping with each other. Learning, I'll start with learning disability. Learning disability is basically a neurological condition that is usually by birth. And usually it is diagnosed when the child starts going to school, when he, start learning, and there are difficulties with the memory, with acquiring, learning skills, and then understanding and everything. Then it comes into, light that there is something wrong with this child.
Okay.
So this is called learning disability, and I'll be talking more about that.
Yeah.
And there is another thing that is called learning difficulty. Difficulty is something else. There are certain areas of learning for every child. Like we all have strengths and weaknesses, and sometimes children have strong areas of learning and sometimes weaker areas of learning.
Okay.
So we can say that generally some children, they face difficulties with learning some subjects, some other things. Like I'll be talking about learning disabilities, and that it would further clarify such things. And slow learning is another fact, another condition. It is basically for those who are relatively lower in their intellectual functioning, I would say IQ. So they have all understanding. They might not have any difficulty related to learning disability and anything. It is not neurologically bound. But in fact, there is general IQ, general understanding level is lower than the chronological age. So it is difficult for child to grasp, the
Ideas and
learning,
concepts, yeah.
ideas and everything with respect to their age fellows.
Okay.
So they are slow learners.
Yeah.
And they learn, but there is quantitative and there is qualitative impairment, I would say.
Okay.
So quantitative impairment would be slow learning, and qualitative would be learning disability, and in between these two there is learning difficulty.
Which can be because of the Down syndrome as well?
Yeah, Down syndrome is basically a condition in which generally IQ is lower. It is, although it is biological condition, but characteristically a child, he has deficient IQ, who has lower mental understanding. I would say mental age is lower than the chronological age. So they may not have learning disability, but definitely they are bound due to their general IQ
genetics,
level.
yeah.
Yeah, learning is limited.
Absolutely. Okay, so now let's move on to Tyra. We've now clarified learning disability, difficulty, and slow learning. Now let's focus on learning disability. That's what we're here to discuss today. What is the spectrum of learning disabilities, and what kind of things fall into it?
Learning disability is basically an umbrella term in which there are certain types of disorders.
Okay.
One, we could say it is difficulty with reading, it's difficulty with writing,
Right.
and it's difficulty in mathematics.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to reading, there is a possibility that a child is unable to spell the word properly, to understand what he or she is reading. When it comes to writing, there is a difficulty to put down the ideas on the paper, what he or she is thinking.
Okay.
Then there is a problem when it comes to mathematics. He or she has difficulties in numbers. They cannot calculate the numbers, they cannot process the numbers. So these three are the basic main disorders that comes into learning disability.
Okay. And I mean, I know
Yeah.
one that sticks out in my mind is dyslexia, where
Yeah,
this falls into-
dyslexia.
But now, abroad, dyslexia is one thing that in schools, you cater to it. So
Exactly.
you get different things, but over here it's different. Okay. that's fine.
Yeah, so now what I wanted to ask was, thank you very much, Maha, for bringing up dyslexia, because I was very conscious about, whether I should speak about it or not. So they say that, there are different types of disabilities, learning disabilities. One is obviously out of them is dyslexia, and then there's
Dysgraphia.
dyscalculia, and then dysgraphia,
Dysgraphia.
and then memory. Do you think all of these are different types of learning
Exactly.
disabilities? And if they are, what are these?
Exactly. These are the different names which are, related to the difficulties she just mentioned, the
Writing,
disorders.
reading.
Writing is
Mathematics.
dyslexia is basically difficulty in writing, and dysgraphia is reading. Dyslexia is reading. Dysgraphia is related to writing, and dyscalculia is related to the mathematical ability.
Okay.
And now you talked about memory. In fact, there are a lot of associated conditions with learning disability that includes your comprehension abilities also, general understanding also. It is compromised, and memory. Memory is one of the factors. So first of all, it is basically the processing difficulty. Like generally, the child may look very normal because this is usually called hidden disability, because you would never come to know unless you are talking about learning, reading and writing, and specifically right from the age when he learns, when he is started going to different schools. Just a few earlier even identification of colors are difficult for the child, because it is all about processing. So
Yeah.
sometimes they are mixed up with they might be labeled as color blind or something like that, because they cannot memorize whether this is red, this is green, this is blue. So this is the first indication that there is something wrong with processing.
Yeah.
And the second thing is usually they are taught the association, the letter and then the picture.
Yeah.
So they can identify the letter, and they can, from the memory, they can recall somebody said A for apple. So they might, they are able to deceive the teacher because they memorize it. But in fact, if they are shown apple, exclusively, they won't be able to identify it or write it. So learning disability in these three areas, it also covers a lot of other things like spatial abilities compromise, the perceptual organization, the sequential order, and different neurological processes which are basic to our life. Even like spatial ability is about if you want to like in driving, you learn how right and left turning, right and left directions are difficult for
Yeah,
them.
I cannot still remember what is daएं and बाएं. I think बाएं is the left and daएं is the right. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right,
As I
thank
have
you.
a difficulty
I had
in
quite a lot
writing.
of difficulty learning this, whether you know what is
Okay.
daएं and what is
Now
बाएं.
the
Yeah.
thing is,
Or what is सवा 11 और पौने 11.
Yeah, exactly.
so now this is great. Like, I mean, it's really good to be discussing it. But the thing is, now the way we're discussing it sounds, because we know what stigma is attached to this. So everything you're saying right now, I think, might be causing some panic in some parents or teachers. Now
probably.
the thing is, there's a spectrum. Now, half the stuff you said, I know as a child, I struggled. Like sometimes you invert
Same here.
numbers, and
But
Same here.
sometimes natural.
so that happens. Now
Exactly.
there's spectrums of it. So
Yeah.
let's educate, and let's educate ourselves as well. What are the spectrums, and to what point? At what point should one be like, okay, we really need to?
For
focus
example,
on
how
this?
can we rate those kids for out of one being the perfect and then 9 being the lowest as well? And other than that, Ma, I think I can
no
even
such thing as perfect.
yeah, I can even relate to that as well, because all of my education till my A levels, I think I just do not remember anything at all till date. So all of what I've studied in my
I
university.
feel no, but I genuinely feel that a lot of people have slipped through the net, and we don't know because, like you
Yeah.
said, it's other things are associated.
Exactly.
They call colorblind or something.
And then there are psychological factors, and Tyra will be talking about those factors because we deal with them as well.
Yeah, we will definitely do that, but
we
it's
just-
the later half.
Oh yeah, so let's start now. So tell us, what is the spectrum of all of this that you've just explained to us?
1 to 9, 1 being good and 9 being like more towards the
Again,
other side.
I would come to that qualitative and quantitative.
Okay.
Sometimes, generally, during learning, like in your physical milestones, you might have observed some child who learns, walk a little later than the other children.
Yeah.
So, but again, at some level, at some time, he learns ultimately. So, slight delay is perfectly okay, because we, in our systems, what I have observed in Pakistan, we send our children school to at the age of 2.5 and 3. And then from there, the learning starts, in fact. They are told informally different concepts, different colors, shapes, and everything. So it is perfectly okay unless the child is, pushed to write something. So identification can be deceived a little bit, but to my understanding, I would say, going along with most of the children is basically a norm. Like I have seen abroad, after 5 years they would start thinking whether the child is able to write, read, or what. But here at the age of 3, we are sent notices from the teachers that you should help him writing and everything. So I would say norms are developed different areas in different areas, but with general understanding, there is an age limit. Like learning starts right from the beginning, but it continues. And sometimes the perceptual processes are slightly delayed. Like I would say till the age of 7, we cannot say whether the processes are matured or not.
Okay.
So I would not recommend diagnosing any learning disability before the age of 7.
Okay, interesting. That's good to know.
Yeah, that is very interesting, because then obviously we do have to share all of those points where what do you think parents can do
Exactly.
to probably solve this issue.
Yeah.
But before that, there's one more thing which is bugging me, and that is that you've mentioned quantitative and qualitative twice now, and then you're saying that there is a gray area in between as well.
Of course.
But whenever we talk about qualitative features, it is very hypothetical in terms of psychology or psychiatry as well. We want some tangible results and tangible opinions or recommendations or suggestions to probably get to a resolve. Now, how do you think that we get around this thing that,
Exactly.
whether it still exists or it does not? And I
Exactly.
want Dr. Thyra's opinion as well. Thyra's opinion, sorry.
We do have certain, if we talk about the quantitative analysis, so we do have certain tools on which we can identify
Because it's
if the
quantitative,
child.
that's why I said qualitative.
Yeah. So
Okay,
qualitatively.
wait, stop. Stop using quantitative and qualitative.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
keep using it too much. I'm
Okay.
sure some of our audience are getting confused.
Okay, so quantitative is where we use figures, and qualitative, and since we use figures, we do have different formulas to calculate. And qualitative is we talk about different qualities which do exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we talk about qualities, then we need to see if the child is able to cope with the other class members accordingly. Now, when we talk about that this is a spectrum, so we need to see if there is a mild delay or a moderate or a severe delay. Now, when the child is performing, he's taking 10 or 15 minutes extra as compared to the other children. That means it's not a big problem. But if the child is taking 3-4 days extra and he or she needs extensive attention of the teachers, he is not able to grasp the concept, he's not able to produce. So that means there is a time where we need to see that the child is facing certain difficulties and he needs our help. So, and plus there is another thing as well. If the child is reading and he is telling you the right thing, but he is not understanding what he or she is actually reading. If you ask that, kindly explain what you have already read, he would say, I don't know, although the reading was correct. So that means there is some difficulty in understanding.
Okay.
Or if the child is not reading with the non-verbal expressions, because here even non-verbal expressions are compromised, where we say there is non-verbal difficulty, learning disability, the child is not able to reproduce or understand the non-verbal expressions.
Okay, by non-verbal expressions, what do you mean for all this?
Non-verbal expression is like when a child is saying I'm happy, but he or she is not telling you that he's happy, or he's not understanding your emotions, that you are happy, you are angry, or you are sad. Because it is expected that child is able to understand the micro non-verbal expressions.
Okay.
It is more of the concept of, again, consistent and inconsistent, like differentiating between the two terms we have just talked about. I would say at one point of time, a child learns to write, okay, but some other time he is not producing it as he did last time. So it indicates that he learned something, but in fact, due to some other reasons, due to some environmental factor, lack of interest, lack of concentration, he is not reproducing it. But in case of quality, a child is unable to even learn, unable to acquire. You have seen the children, they write the mirror images of the letters, but it is very normal till the age of 4, 5, 6, because motor coordination, or I would say some other processes, brain processes which are required for the learning are not that mature. So it is quite okay if they write inverted. But with the passage of time, he is unable to identify, he is 3 years old and he is unable to identify, okay, 4, 3.5, then 4, then 5, then 6. With the passage of time, when he starts lagging behind the classmates, because the best indication is most of the children are taught, and with multiple modalities, I think now you provide them visual clues, you provide them you know, textual
Exactly.
aids
And
and
then we do
everything.
have these dotted lines and
Despite,
copies.
you know, despite trying different modalities, different types of learnings, providing to the child is unable to learn the concept because it is
Because it is.
because it is perceptual in nature. It could be auditory, it could be visual.
Okay.
So difficulty might be in these two areas.
Exactly, and I
Okay.
think that's where parents have to figure out that, you know, what is
Exactly.
wrong, and then at the same time, we do need teachers who are very patient with such type of kids, and obviously the teachers even need to know whether there is a problem with the kid or not, and I think that's parents' responsibility.
Exactly. So with that, we're going to go for a short break, and when you come back, we're going to talk about the importance of the role of the teachers. We're going to be talking about other different things that you can help assist your child and make sure that they are up to date with everything.
Exactly, and then the stigma attached over here in Pakistan because parents do not half of the time feel like sharing it with anybody else.
Okay.
So let's go for a break. Good morning.
So I would say to you,
Welcome back, everyone. And before the break, we're talking about learning disabilities. And before we were telling you about what actually falls into it, what the spectrum is. It's all about having difficulties reading, writing, with mathematics, memory. It's about difficulty processing, and it's also about child falling behind with the rest of their group. Now, abroad, there's different forms and systems in place to deal with these things. Over here, we're still learning, and we're trying to educate and raise our awareness.
Exactly, and to raise your awareness, what we are doing is that we want to highlight all of those stigmas attached to the condition of a child as well, because half of the time parents are not even willing to tell it to anybody else within the family or probably in the school, so that people might treating him differently.
Exactly.
You know, they might start treating him differently as well. So what types of parents do you see, you know, when people come across and say, or any teacher recommends you a student that, you know, he's lagging behind or she's lagging behind? So what type of behaviors do you see amongst parents?
They should also be aware
Yeah,
of.
usually it is perceived as if there is some kind of negligence from on the part of the teacher. Maybe she is not paying much attention. Usually we see there are a lot of children in a class, so sometimes initially we think as if there are a lot of children, so teacher is unable to pay attention individually. Teachers' complaints include that he does not memorize because first he learns and then he is not able to reproduce that. Secondly, while children write, he is unable to write then. And there are some other difficulties as well, like agitation, anxiety, and some kind of reactions also coming up from the side of the child, like not interested in writing and everything, disturbing other children, hyperactivity, distraction, moving around in the class. These are all the characteristics of a child. And above all, he is unable to produce good results in as expected. So this is the first indication. Despite every effort from the side of the teacher, she is unable to get the child along with the other children, first thing. And parents, teachers are usually worried. 2-3 days back, I was talking to a teacher and she was asking me, Uzma, please tell me ways, how can I communicate that to the parents, because they take it very threatening to them. Maybe they think it is our inability to help them. So what are the ways we can do that? First thing I have observed in children is the denial in the first place, because they either put blame on teachers, or sometimes what they say, I'm alone at home, I have to do everything, father is not home, and father is very aggressive, he is not helping me in studies and everything. So there are many things to think of learning disability. Usually a child is perceived as a dull child, like he is not interested. He is interested in everything else, but he is not interested. He doesn't want to study at all. And definitely psychological reactions, Sarah will be talking about them, are there, because he is rebellious, he is aggressive, he shouts in return and everything. So signs are, despite every effort, a child is unable to, like you have associated certain rewards to it also, like other children, you have provided him the comparison as well. You are helping him, you are providing one-on-one attention and doing everything about that, but still the problem is there. Like he might progress again. We were discussing about dyslexia. This is a spectrum. So if the intensity of dyslexia is milder, then of course you can do something. You can provide individual educational plan, IEP, with the help of a remedial teacher. Usually you can find remedial teachers as well, and you can provide help to the child. Different modalities might be, if he is not interested in writing, you can provide verbal facilitation to the child.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's move on to Tyra, because we are running out of time. So what are these psychological factors that can have an effect on this?
If a child is not able to reproduce or understand what he or she is being taught, then there is a possibility that he would be depressed, because he has to listen to the comments like, you're a failure, you're not interested, you cannot
This
do
you're a
it.
failure is a
के बेटे को
favorite
देखो।
of
Yeah.
these. Yeah, the bit, God.
उसके बेटे को देखो, फलाने के बेटे को देखो।
Exactly. When you're providing the comparisons, the child is becoming depressed. He's becoming agitated whenever the time comes that he is to study. He's like in a process of anxiety. He is not. He's shivering. He's like, and if he becomes aggressive towards parents, towards teachers, towards studies, he is unable to socialize properly because he's not able to understand and cope. And we are giving comparison to wo jo साथ वाले का बेटा है. He's not able to
Not Salah,
move
like,
around.
look at this uncle's son, and look at this other
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, look at us. We are on television. Tell every other kid, oh, look at him now.
we have missed very important thing about learning disability. Intellectually, the child is capable either of average or above average intelligence.
Yeah,
Usually,
the
he is
IQ
not
is not
under. Yeah, IQ
compromised.
is not lower. I would say
Thank you.
IQ
This
is
is
not
what I wanted
deficient.
to try. This what we want to highlight. IQ is not lower.
Yeah.
Thank you
For
that.
learning disability, IQ is not lower. And if IQ is lower, then there is some other condition, because learning would be limited to your intellectual functioning. This is very important.
Yeah, okay.
Great. Thank you so much.
Very
for
quickly,
clarifying
two last things before we move on to what solutions and what we need to
Yeah.
do about it. Number one, okay, do you think that these learning disabilities can occur at any point of time? And number two, do you think that it can be because of a trauma or stress
Exactly.
you went through?
Answer to both question is no.
Okay.
Because learning disability has to be diagnosed earlier, because difficulties would start from where the learning starts. the
So when you're
point is.
born.
So later on, if you develop certain kind of learning problems, they might not be learning disability as such.
That'll be difficult.
Yeah, there would be something else, like environmental factors
Even
could
if it's
contribute.
neurological, though.
Yeah, it is neurological. That's why it has to be, diagnosed earlier years of life.
Okay, but as in, so if you have an accident or something.
Yeah, yes. Then there is, then you have the history of the person.
Or if there was
Before
memory loss.
accident, it was
Fine.
everything was fine with learning,
And
and there are many cases which are related to such, like they are unable to memorize things, short-term memory loss, long-term memory loss, and then you know what, you have learned languages and you forget language, the whole language.
Oh
you
God,
cannot
that's
speak
so
it.
full. That's because it
So
takes so
it
much
is,
effort.
yeah, so much
Okay.
effort.
So
I
that,
think
wait.
there's one more hilarious thing,
Ah,
and
you Tara.
we see it in films as well, where a man gets struck into an accident and then he forgets all of what was happening in his life, and thankfully he forgot his wife too as well. That was relieving. That's just a very relieving scene to watch.
No,
honestly.
God, I don't
And
know
then
what
he just
goes on in your
Then he
life.
just forgot everything, so you can name him again and he can do all the
Catharsis.
chores and he
Yeah.
can start all over.
Okay, so now, Tara, you said, really a lot about, what are the psychological aspects, but, teachers have to be aware, they need to be educated in order to point out the
Yeah.
kids. But what other tools would you give to the children or to the parents who are watching right now?
Yeah.
What can they do in order to make their lives easier and not so difficult?
First of all, it is very important to understand that the child, if he is not able to grasp the things which you are giving, you are presenting, that means we need an alternative strategy. For example, there is a simple word. As we said, it is diagnosed in early years of school life. So if there is a simple word, light, L-I-G-H-T, and the child is not able to grasp it, he is not able to memorize, so the first thing we could do is we could write the word in different, whether we could write it in caps or we could use both cases. We can use different colors for different letters. Then we can associate a picture with it so that the child is able to understand that yes, this is light.
Okay.
Then we can use phonics as well. We would write the words, for example, there's a word has, H-A-S. So we would write it separately, we would give big gaps within, right? And then we would teach the child the phonic, h, z. And then we would just put the word in the form of a single word, H-A-S, we would put the letters, and we would just ask him to call the word again.
Okay.
So phonics could also be used. Then there is a strategy in which we could use different vowel sounds to tell the child how words are differently used.
Okay.
So, and yes, one-to-one attention is very important.
Okay.
We could sit with the child, we could see, because there are 4 domains in which the learning could be affected.
Yeah, exactly.
That is basically receiving, processing, understanding, retrieving, and then recalling.
Okay.
Now, if we sit with the child and we identify that the receiving part is compromised, that means we would help him to receive the concept. If the processing or understanding is compromised, we would help him at that point. If retrieval or recall is difficult, we would develop the strategies accordingly in which we would help him to recall by giving certain cues. If the child is not able to say has, we would say her, and that's a cue. So the child would say, okay, yes, that's has.
Okay, now that's a very nicer way to do things
Yeah.
as well. But over here, we do have a very different concept. For example, if you're asking a kid, okay,
Chappal.
count till 10 or till 15, and I get, for example, okay, my example, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. So, all of a sudden, my dad or my mom would say, "Chappal hai kya?" Just grab that sleeper. And I'm like, oh, what was it? I might probably start running as well. And that panic attack actually makes it more difficult for you to learn because you're not learning already.
Okay.
So what happens is, what I want to ask over here is, this type of pressure building, do you think it helps in any way?
No, not at all.
Yeah, parents, listen to this.
Not at all. So 2 things. One, science. First of all, again, Tyra mentioned, despite using different ways, the child is unable to learn. First thing, then a proper referral has to be made on the part of the teacher, and we have different checklists. While we go to different schools and help teachers to identify learning disability, we have different checklists, like age appropriate, against every age level and every grade. One has to be, one has to be able to checklist.
Yes,
everything.
ma'am, there's a
So we
checklist.
provide them to the teachers first thing, and after that they have to make proper referral. So they
Okay.
come to us as a psychologist. We diagnose them if some diagnosis is there, and most of the cases there is no diagnosis at all.
They're just being
So
difficult.
we have to go back to the teacher and recommending them to provide proper attention. And if there is something, then all of the thing has to be done with the parents. Then we have to educate. So
Okay,
first
now-
thing is
Okay.
Before you go on, I would like to add one thing in what Shahzad said. There's a video that's a very interesting video related to learning difficulties. There's a child sitting and the mother is asking, what is this, and the child is not able to reproduce. He's like, and then he
मुझे
says,
आता था.
आता था, and then थप्पड़ खा के पता चल जाएगा. And the mother is like, okay, yes. क्योंकि like they have made him associated with that. Whenever the mother would slap, the child would recall. Now that's the cue that usually people give.
Okay. And I think
What?
that's what
Sorry,
I
I
used to
didn't
do.
understand. What?
Yeah, that's what I used to do
So
with
the
definitions.
mother used to hit him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he didn't recall until the mother hit him.
No, it's not that,
That
she
was
really
a-
hit
that
him,
is
but
a
she was just
strategy
trying to
people
ask him,
use.
and then he wasn't able to
you know,
reproduce,
the child,
and that's how it was.
Then child doesn't have dyslexia. That's why. So this is how it is differentiated.
Okay, but
okay,
okay,
last-
let me just be sure of myself whether I am having a learning disability or not. So what I used to do in my university days, I was a scholarship holder, and what
right, we
happened
get
was
it.
that, you know, whenever it was a definition or it was like 8 or 9 topics to
Rota.
remember, so what I used to do was, for example, if the first word was dismantle and the other was startle and, you know, whatever, so I'll just make a formula, DSYTWX and whatnot, and I'll just remember it just like that. So I'll write the first letters first and then just fill in the rest of it. So that's how I used to learn. Do you
Yeah,
think
but-
there was a learning difficulty? or
wasn't.
That's
disability?
just a technique to learn. It's a very
I'm
good.
fine, I'm fine.
Yeah, it's a very good technique. And don't you have a photographic memory?
Yeah, I do have it.
Anyway, so thank you so much for being here today. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. So guys, that was our show on learning disabilities. And at the end of the day, you know, it does get frustrating when your child doesn't do maybe what you're saying, but that's what they are, they're children. And, you know, calling them a failure or giving them tane or making remarks, or it's not going to help. And when they're older, they will remember everything. And to say, forget it, I didn't mean it, it doesn't work. You caused the damage.
Yeah, my thing that, you know, the kids of today who actually watch PT well this morning, they love us both.
Why?
Because, you know, we are on their side, and that's what it
always-
is. And we literally feel from the heart, because this is what we went through as well.
Exactly. Well, no, I can't say that to my parents because that was really mean. But we do have our fun fact of the day. And today we picked up another interesting animal.
And the animal is hedgehog.
Yes, a hedgehog.
So hedgehogs
Hedgehog.
roll into a ball to protect themselves.
And on average, the heart rate is beats about 300 times a minute.
Yeah, hedgehog fact number 3.14. Hedgehogs are incredibly polite.
You see, I don't know about that fact. How did they figure that out? Anyway, hedgehog have such a terrific sense of smell. They can smell food under 1 inch of soil.
Yeah, and this one's my favorite. The name for a baby hedgehog is a hoglet.
Oh, that's cute. And they have prickly spines everywhere except on their face. So they can still get it.
And they have poor eyesight but excellent senses of smell and hearing.
And they got their name through their foraging habits.
And each hedgehog has around 5,000 spines.
So you have to be careful. And they're also known as the gardener's friends. So you should, they're so cute. Oh my gosh.
Exactly. And European hedgehogs hibernate throughout winter.
Exactly. So that is our little fun fact on hedgehogs. They're so cute. I want one. But with that, do log on to our Facebook fan page,
This is with the name of World This Morning.
our Twitter page,
World This Morning without a G.
our Daily Motion YouTube
World
page.
This Morning and World This Morning.
And the repeat is
5 past 11 p.m.
Have a wonderful day. Do something productive. I will try to, with that, 1, 2, 3.
Good morning. Thank you very much.